This is Caitlin, your host of the NoSleep4Dramas Podcast, where we get no sleep and survive on coffee to watch just one more episode at night. Welcome back to the NoSleep4Dramas Podcast, and today we are doing a review episode. I feel like I haven't done one of these in a while, and I'm really excited to talk about the drama that we are talking about and reviewing today. How this is going to be structured is I'm going to do a little intro. I'm going to say why I chose to watch this drama. I'm going to do a little intro to the drama, including synopsis and actors. And then I'm going to do a non-spoiler review and my initial broad spectrum thoughts on the drama. And then I will introduce a spoiler warning and get into the down and dirty of what I thought about this drama. Pros, cons, or interpretations of things that happen. So once we get after the spoiler review, we are going to be talking about specific details and scenes and plot points in the drama. So we will have spoilers in this episode. And then lastly, I'll maybe at the end talk about my favorite moments, favorite scenes, things like that. And then I'll bring it all in conclusion, reiterate what I loved or disliked about this drama. And that will be a wrap for our review episode. That's pretty much a little high outline of what we're going to do. So, as you can see from the title, we are here to talk about The Atypical Family. And I am super glad. I'm glad for multiple things. One, I'm glad I watched this drama. Two, I'm glad that Jang Ki-young chose to do this drama. I hadn't heard like any rumors or anything of like if they had somebody else in mind when like they were choosing the cast and certain characters, everything. I just remember hearing the title, and the title was different when they first announced it, and then the synopsis, and I'm like, cool, I'm watching that no matter who's in it. And then Jang Ki-young was announced as the male lead, and I'm like, cool, I am definitely watching this. So, why did I choose to watch this drama? Major reason, Jang Ki-young. If you don't know, I'm a major fan of his. I have been a major fan for years. I was so glad that he got out of the military. I was so glad to hear that he booked The Atypical Family and as his drama to come back into Dramaland with. I have always loved him, whether it's support or lead role, and it has been a fun time watching him act different roles and be in different things and try new things and move up his career. And I think The Atypical Family was just a good addition to that trajectory and path that he's already been on. The other reason why I chose to watch this was that I read the synopsis, and if you guys don't know, one of the things I love about dramas in general is when they use their platforms to discuss societal issues, important topics, portray relationships, or things that need to be discussed and brought up into a person's or the human world's perspective. And when a drama does that and uses their platform to do that, I will always support that type of thing. So when you read this synopsis, and at first, like, I'll read the synopsis or I'll go through the synopsis in a little bit, but like when this was first announced, all it really said was like family with superpowers that are dealing with modern day issues and they need to push through those modern day issues to gain their superpowers back. It was pretty like 2-sentence long synopsis, and that was pretty much it. And immediately I was like, oh, we got superpowers and we got societal issues. So I'm definitely checking it out. And then Jang Ki-young got added to the cast, and I just doubled down on that. As you know, like, I knew I was going to review this drama after watching the first episode. Like, after the first episode was done, I was like, I need to do a review on this. This needs to be highlighted more. We all know I started this blog and then this podcast, but we all know I started the blog in general to talk about dramas that might not have been as talked about on social media versus other dramas, or people might not have just watched at all, and then I highlight them on the blog or this podcast and they go and watch it later. I mean, that was a major reason why I started talking about dramas on the blog or talking about dramas in general on social media. And for me, I think Atypical Family fits that bill. Multiple reasons why people avoided this drama, which I will talk to in a bit. But I think if you did skip it for any of the various reasons that I am about to highlight, you really missed out. Like, this is a really unique and fantastic story with a heartwarming moments, and really used its platform to discuss real and important societal issues or just issues of life in general that I think dramas need to highlight. So I think there's 2 reasons why people chose to skip this, maybe 3. A major reason is when the promo pictures came out and Claudia Kim was in a fat suit, which I will talk about later. I think that turned off a lot of people in this drama, myself included. Like, I was not happy when I saw that picture. I will fully admit that. Like, it is 2024. We do not need to see that picture. And we don't need to use the fat suit in general, in my opinion. But I think that caused a lot of people to skip this drama fully skip it and not even look at it, because they were basically sort of boycotting it, which that was their choice. I don't condone, not condone is not the answer. I'm not mad at anybody who chose to skip it because of that. Like, they should not be using fat suits in 2024. I do agree with that. But if you did skip it because of that, I'd say you still missed out on really good drama, and I'll explain how the use of the fat suit was done well later on. I still had issues with it, and I'm trying to come up with an idea of how we could have recovered or fixed those issues, which I might have to talk about when I actually think of them. But I think that was a major thing, is a lot of people saw those pictures and just was like, I'm not going to watch this. I don't support this, which is fair, totally fair. And I get that. But I will tell you right now, if you're still worried about it and you're seeing these reviews of people saying, like, this is the best drama I've watched, I can't believe I didn't watch this as it aired, they do the fat suit right. It's like, it's not, in my opinion, I think they treated the fat suit as best as they could. I still had some issues with it, which again, I'll talk about later, but like, it was the best possible outcome I could foresee while still using the fat suit. I'll basically say that. So if you're worried about that, you don't have to be worried about it. That's what I'm saying. I think the other thing that was against this drama is it was airing during an extremely other popular drama. And obviously a lot of people are watching it. We all know what it is. I'm not going to name it here, but like, we all know what that drama was. And it was all over social media. So like, anything else that was airing at the time was overshadowed by that drama. And I have not watched the drama. I don't have any opinions on the drama, but obviously if people loved it, it's a good drama. Like, there was so much talk about it, of course. And I think with the Atypical Family, like, looking at the trailer and looking at the synopsis, like, it does have a darker tone. Maybe people just were not in the mood to have a darker tone. And I guess it just aired at a time that, like, it had stiff competition and people were not in the mood to watch this type of drama. Now that it is over, I am highly recommending it, and people need to check this out. But that's the reason why I do this blog and why I do this podcast, is to highlight and talk about dramas that people might have missed, people might have ignored at first, and now they need to go back and check it out. So that is why I chose to watch this. Jung Ki-young, and the synopsis sounded interesting, and it just seemed like something I would like. Like, who doesn't like a family with superpowers, you know? Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through the quick synopsis of the drama. As per usual, I'm not doing any spoilers, or as much spoilers as I possibly can in the synopsis and my overall review. And then when I do get to that point, I'll do a spoiler Warning. Quick synopsis of Atypical Family. You have the Bach family, who has superpowers. And then due to modern day various problems or perceived problems, they lose their powers. They are not able to use their powers at all, or their powers just don't work properly. And then you have the female lead, Do Da Hye, who enters the picture, who is a con woman, and she actually approaches this woman or this family for a specific mission. And she eventually ends up getting involved with them and living with them. And due to her influence and her being in their lives, their situation of being blocked by these modern day problems start to change, not only for the family, but also things change for Do Da Hye and her life and the family that she brought with her into the Bach families. That's kind of like a non-spoiler synopsis of the Atypical Family. Okay, so for the major players when it comes to the Atypical Family, we have Jang Ki-young, who as I said, this is his first drama out of the military. You might know him from My Roommate is a Gumio, or Search WWW, or Come and Hug Me. That's a couple of his more famous dramas. He also was a supporting role in Go Back Couple. He has a long-standing acting career. I absolutely love him. He's a great actor, in my opinion. Female lead, Do Da Hye, is played by Chun Woo Hee, who we recently saw in The 8 Show, who was a completely different character compared to her character in The Atypical Family. Amazing acting job in that drama. Other dramas she showed up in were Delightfully Deceitful from last year, Be Melodramatic, and Argon. Then we have the Bach family. The matriarch, or the grandmother of the Bach family, mother of the Bach family, is played by Go Do Shim, and you might recognize her from Twinkling Watermelon, or Island, or Curtain Call, or Our Blues, or When the Camellia Blooms, just to name a few. She's done quite a few dramas. The father of the family is played by Oh Man-suk, and he is also currently in The Midnight Romance in Hagwon. He plays the father in that. He's also was in a guest role in Queen of Tears. You'll see him in The Kidnapping Day, May It Please the Court, Law School. Again, he's kind of one of those people that do guest supporting roles all the time. Then you have the sister of the Bach family, played by Kim Soo-hyun, or Claudia Kim. She's the one that was in the fat suit. You may recognize her from Chimera or Gyeongsung Creature. What else has she been in? Behind Every Star, she had a guest role in. She also was in a Marvel movie. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. And then, so we did the father, the mother, the grandmother, sister. And then Guiju's daughter is played by Park So-hee. Park So-hee. Amazing actress. I loved her in this drama. You might recognize her from The Revenant or See You in My 19th Life, Little Women, Law School, Mouse, She Would Never Know. She played a lot of young versions of people or children. She's been acting since she was very tiny, very small. And then other actors and actresses we know are the other children that went to school with Bokina, and then also the Khan family peoples. Khan family, the mother of the Khan family is played by Kim Gom-soom, and you might recognize her from The Worst of Evil. Let's see, what else? Bad Prosecutor, Lovers of the Red Sky, She Knows Everything. She had a guest role in Hospital Playlist. She's been doing a lot of guest/support roles. The sister of the Khan family is played by Ru Abel, or Ru Sun Young. Her stage name is Ru Abel. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. But you might recognize her from A Good Day to Be a Dog, Run On, Be Melodramatic, My Mister, and then the uncle of the Khan family, the last person of the Khan family, who, by the way, in my opinion, looks nothing like his character in Atypical Family. He is a good-looking man. And they made him pudgy and had a beard. I mean, he was not good looking in Atypical Family, but have you seen pictures of him when he's not in Atypical Family? Like, he's adorable in Atypical Family, but damn, he is a good looking man. Just look him up on MDL and you'll know what I'm talking about. He has not been acting for a very long time. He was a model and he transitioned to acting in 2022, 2021. So he was in Hit the Spot in 2022 and had a guest role in Celebrity. His debut drama was Green Mothers Club from 2022. So he's only done 4 or 5 dramas. Also, he's only 32 years old, which in Atypical Family, he looks a lot older than 32, in my opinion. Not like a lot older. He doesn't look like 60s, but he does not look 32 in Atypical Family. Let me tell you that, at least in my opinion. So I'm excited to see what he does next because I loved his character in Atypical Family and I thought he did a really good job. So I'm excited to see what he does next in this role. But yeah, he looks nothing like his character in Atypical Family. And then the 2 little kids that Bokina goes to school with, we have who are quite famous in their own right. Moo Woo Jin, who's been like literally the younger version of every A-list actor you could possibly think of forever. He was in Castaway Diva. He was in The Devil Judge. He was in It's Okay to Not Be Okay. He was in The King Eternal Monarch. He was in, I don't even know. He just did a ton of younger roles. You would know him if you saw him. And then lastly, the other girl who you will recognize for sure as well because she has been acting as younger versions of people forever. Her name is Kim Soo-in. Sorry. She was in Mouse. She was in It's Okay to Not Be Okay as well. A Piece of Your Mind. He is Psychometric, The Player, While You Were Sleeping. Like, she's popped up in a lot of dramas. So you would recognize those 2 people as well. Both very good child actors, very good. And I'm glad to see them. They had like more of a role than just playing the younger version of somebody in this drama. So those are pretty much the most of the major players of the drama. I will mention some other characters, and when I do, I'll look them up on MDL to tell you who they are played by if anybody's curious, but that's pretty much the major characters of this drama. Now, this, from all my research that I could find, this is an original script. It's not based on a webtoon or a manhwa. And that's just like from Google. So if I'm wrong, please correct me because I couldn't find anything that this was based off of anything. So it was done by the screenwriters Kang Eun-kyung and Ju Hwa-mi. Ju Hwa-mi wrote things like Meow the Secret Boy, Introverted Boss, Marriage Not Dating. And then Kang Eun-kyung did Gyeongsung Creature, Dr. Romantic Season 1, 2, and 3, Stars Land, just to name a couple. She's done quite a few, actually. She's been writing for a while. And then this was directed by Joo Hyung-tak, who you might know some of his other works like Sky Castle or Snowdrop. And yeah, that's pretty much everybody that we need to know in the cast. And let me tell you, the cast did a wonderful job in this drama. I thought it had some very good acting and some very poignant scenes, in my opinion. Okay, so now we're moving on to, now that we have the synopsis and now that we have the actors, we are now moving on to my overall non-spoiler review of this drama. And I will just say that I absolutely adored this drama. At first, I did not know what I thought about the drama. I will admit that. As I said, I started this for 2 reasons. Jang Ki-young being out of the military and the modern day problems affecting the whole family and their superpowers. After the first episode, this had a very different vibe from anything I had watched in 2024 so far. It was quirky, it was dark, it was unique, because it came off as like somewhat of a whimsical drama, but then you stick in some very dark undertones and dark topics, which made the drama very unpredictable, which I'm always a fan of. As the dramas went on, the characters grew on me. Sometimes in the social media atmosphere, I saw people like saying they did not like Dodahe, who is the main female lead at the beginning. I also was not the biggest fan. Because I was such a big fan of the super powered family, the Bach family, and to have this girl come in wanting to deceive them and take all their money and like run this con on them. But then the further you go, you learn more about her background, you learn why she is doing this, and she grows as a person, so you like her more as the drama goes on, and thus liking everybody else more. So if you're one of those people that like started the Atypical Family and didn't finish it because you didn't like her character, depending on the episode you got to, if it was early on, I would say continue, because she does get better along with a lot of the other people that you might not like. She definitely gets better as the drama goes. And I guess that means that's a good acting, because like if you hate the character, that means the actor or actress is doing a very good job in portraying this character that you are not really comfortable with as she cons this family. But also, you had to appreciate her character at the same time, because her character was very blunt and basically did not take anything from anybody. Like, if somebody said something to her, she would say something back, or she would do something to kind of put her foot down. And that was kind of refreshing at the same time, even though you might not like her. She was a little abrasive and came off as that abrasiveness came off in the beginning, where you kind of bristled when she'd said something sometimes, because it was just uncomfortable on like what she was doing with the Bach family. But as the story went on, the story unfolded into a beautiful and unpredictable way. As I said, you learn about the superpowers, but then you become invested in these characters, and you want to see how they overcome these modern day problems to fix and heal and fix their superpowers. And then the story like sprinkles in a romance that you could root for. And I did for some part of it. I did. But in my opinion, I stayed because of the family. I stayed because of the family relations and the idea of family in this drama. The drama is just so heartwarming. And I said this before, the drama is just so heartwarming and has a unique story where it discusses societal issues and had these important, like, kick in the gut, close to the heart conversations that you can't help but relate to, or have had that conversation in the past at some point, or even that thought. And so I found myself kind of being exposed through this drama a little bit, depending on the character, because they had these close to the chest conversations that really felt like you were not supposed to be in the room, because they were calling out these issues that they were having and having discussions on them in order to get past them. And it was like a little too blunt or a little too intimate sometimes in what they were revealing, like talking about feelings and everything. And I think that is just a good example of like what people will need to do sometimes to heal and to get over this trauma that they have. Is like they have to have these discussions, they have to bring up these topics on societal issues, or just issues in general that they're having between each other as characters or family, to get over them or to shed light on things that people should be aware of. Okay, so this is your spoiler warning. We are now entering spoiler territory. I can't talk about anything further without bringing up specific scenes or specific topics or specific details of the drama and characters and what happens to them, without discussing anything that I have further down the roads. This is your spoiler warning. If you have not watched this drama and you don't want to be spoiled, let me say that again. If you have not watched this drama and you don't want to be spoiled, do not continue, because I am diving deep into this drama and talking about things. So if you want to continue this review and you don't mind spoilers, that's fine. Go ahead. But if you don't want spoilers, go watch the drama and come back. And then come back to this warning, and anything beyond here will be spoiler territories. This is your warning right now. Okay, so first off, I'm going to talk about the things that I loved about this drama. I'm going to name things I specifically like, and then give examples of how that was portrayed in the drama, or talk about a character's trajectory or path from the beginning to the end of the drama, depending on the topic. So the first thing I liked about this drama is the flawed characters. So from the synopsis, you go in thinking oh, it's the Bach family, though they have superpowers. They're going to be the flawed characters because they have to figure out and face these modern day problems that have stopped them from using their powers. So they obviously are the ones that are going to have to heal and solve these issues, and it's going to be a major point in this plot point in this drama. It is still a plot point. It is a major plot point, and I will say that now. But what I loved is there's a twist to this, because it wasn't only the Bach family that was needing healing. In my opinion, I think everybody from the Bach family to the Khan family, including our leading lady, all had something to figure out, whether that's a superpower or that's just something they were dealing in life. I liked how the drama, even though the Bach family had superpowers, which made them a little more special on trying to figure out what was wrong with them to fix this, they didn't really put them on a pedestal. So if you had, for example, one of the problems was the matriarch of the Bach family. Her power was when she dreamed of the future. And so her modern day problem was insomnia. She could not sleep. Well, they made it a big thing, but they put it at the same level of in the Khan family. They put it at the same level as Ina being bullied at school. That was a plot point in the story. So her having to deal with her powers, in my mind, was kind of the same level of Ina dealing with bullying in school. And there never was a hierarchy with people's issues. Or it was Ina overcoming her trauma and revealing she actually did have a superpower, compared to the Khan family's sister, the daughter of the Khan family, auditioning for these roles and not getting them, and having to live with the fact that she's being compared to these women and having to audition with these roles. And even with her and Donghee, the woman in the fat suit, Donghee was a successful model and somewhat actress before she gained the weight. And to have Donghee have these superpowers and deal with these societal pressures of being a model and being an actress, and then have the Khan family's daughter going out for these auditions at the same time and having those same issues of body image and being rejected from these auditions, and then them taking that same pressure and dealing with it differently and somewhat relatable in the same ways. I loved how there was somewhat of a parallel sometimes when comparing these people's flaws and issues, and nothing was really put into a hierarchy intentionally. The writers were very careful to kind of treat these modern day problems, whether they stopped a superpower from happening to just a normal person dealing with something in their life, on the same level. And there wasn't a hierarchy put in place where if the person has a superpower, their problem was more important. That was never really portrayed that way in this drama, and I really, really liked that. And I liked the fact that it didn't just stick to the Bach family having issues. It spread out into other people. And it could be as minor as trying to support their family while kind of being the side character, or wanting to do more in their life than helping their mother run this long con. They had their own dreams, and that was a major discussion within the Bach family too, is like the mother was having these dreams of the future and then telling people not to do something or not to go anywhere, and thus creating this effect where they did not pursue the dreams they wanted to. And the Khan family and the daughter and the quote unquote uncle of that family kind of was having that same thing where they had to help their mother run these long cons and not being able to explore what they wanted to do in life. There was just a lot of parallels with all the characters, and all of them were flawed. All of them had issues that they had to discover and heal from and get past, and it just was not limited to the Bach family. It was nice seeing all of these characters from where they were at the beginning of the story to where they were at the end. And even at the end, it didn't mean that they were not flawed anymore. Like, they were human still. And that's kind of the funny thing, is the Bach family has superpowers, but they're still human. They still make mistakes. They still have assumptions about people and things like that. And I just love the parallel of the superhero family and the human, quote unquote, human family, and how relatable they are to each other. And it just kind of just turned a lot of tropes on its head in general. Speaking of the families in general too, we all know one of my main favorite tropes is found family. And in this, we got two basically found families, technically three. The female lead, Do Da-hee, was the center point of this trope. She technically found, quote unquote, found two families in the drama. First was the Khan family when her father died, and the second family was the Bach family. So by the end, she had discovered and quote unquote found these two families, but also by the end, the Bach family and the Khan family found each other, and they both became a found family throughout the story. So the found family relationships helped heal the various characters, gave them a sense of support or friendship or love that they hadn't experienced before. It was a way for them to discover something outside of what their family laid down for them in their life. And it was fun to watch these characters embrace this. It was fun to watch Dong-hee, like the Grace from the Khan family, literally like smacking Dong-hee on the side of her head and saying, dude, you are crazy to marry this dude. You should not be marrying this guy. Do better for yourself. Like, have a bigger self-esteem, or you need to eat something. And or the uncle running around and sort of supporting Ina, the daughter, in the background by learning her, because he was supposed to follow her due to the Khan family, telling him to follow her and learn her routine in order they can exploit her in general. He instead studied her and kind of felt sympathy for her and did little things to make her feel better, or told her father where she was or what she was doing if he needed to help her in some way. So it was just those little things where they might have entered a relationship or entered each other's lives with an intention of doing something bad. And through getting to know each other and through the story, it ended up healing both of them and having a relationship between them. And it was just fun to watch them go from beginning to end and seeing how that relationship changed. And in the end, they all won. In the end, they all got what they were looking for, in my sense, in my perception, in terms of the family aspect and the support that they were seeking. I will say at the end of this episode, there's some things I would have done differently with the end, but overall, they supported each other. They were supporting. And what was funny, it was this found family is the Khan family approached the Bach family to con them. But then when they discovered how miserable they were, the Bach family was, they actually got mad at them and was like, no, you need to figure this out. You need to get your shit together, and you need to, we can't con you if you are miserable. It was a weird thing that happened. And that was some of the comedy that happened in the drama, is the Khan family felt so bad for these people that they actually ended up helping them, which was hilarious, but it was also a trope turned on its head again. It was really neat to watch and really heartwarming to watch, and really a found family. Really a found family. Okay, so speaking of found family, technically, not really. A major relationship in this drama that I absolutely adore and I loved watching was the father-daughter relationship, and that was Guiju and his daughter. So, for those of you who have not watched this drama, obviously, we have Guiju, who he is the main male lead, played by Jang Ki-young. His power is that he can go back in time, but the caveat to his power is he can only go back to times that he was happy. So in the story, in the past, he visited the past and his wife ended up in a car accident with Ina, his daughter, in the car, and she ended up dying. And he couldn't get past that moment. So anytime he went back, which mainly he was happy with his wife or happy with Ina, he was reminded of the car accident and he developed depression. So he didn't find happiness anymore in his past. So he couldn't time travel anymore. He couldn't go into his past. And then in walks Do Da-hye. Sorry if you hear my cat in the background. She wants to get on my lap. So the story with Do Da-hye, though, is for some reason, she could see him in the past and they wanted to figure out why. Just from her being present in the Bach family life, it was discovered that she could make these little changes, like interpreting a dream differently than the Bach family did before, or Guiju helping Guiju open up to his daughter a little bit and understanding his daughter a little better, which developed their relationship more. And then her being able to see Guiju when he's in the past and helping him try to figure out why that was and becoming that happiness he was seeking in order to start up his power again and getting more confident with his power again and sort of basically coming to terms with his past, his traumatic past, and the accident in his past. And then Ina is a girl who, at the beginning of the drama, we don't know if she has a power or not. And then later on, it's discovered that she does, and she's just not been confident enough to show it and doesn't know how to sort of control it. So she's kept it a secret, which has caused multiple issues within her family, especially with her grandmother. So we have Do Da-hye to kind of open up those conversations and point out things within this family that they seem to overlook or not notice, and be able to start these conversations that people need to have. So what I loved is Guiju and his daughter's relationship starting where it was at the beginning, basically non-existent. Like he didn't hate his daughter. He just couldn't look at her because he was so depressed and just didn't know what to do with her either, because he never attempted to be a father. And so seeing Do Da-hye and her interacting with his daughter and like giving him and them the opportunity and the space to start having a relationship, and then just watching their relationship blossom by the end. That was a really, really touching storyline that I loved watching. And I loved how confident Ina got, but also her father, how confident he got by the end, and how comfortable and how confident he got in being a father. And then once he knew of Ina's power, so like one of my favorite scenes in the entire drama is Do Da-hye learns of Ina's power, which is if she looks somebody in the eye, she can read their thoughts. She learns about that power like very early on, like by episode 5 or something. But nobody else in the family knows about it until like episode 10, 11, something like that. And there's a very poignant scene, which again started because of Do Da-hye. They go and save Ina from being locked in the school, and they take her out to get some food. And her father's like, why the heck were you locked there? What happened? Why aren't you telling me? Kind of getting irritated, right? Ina runs off to the bathroom and Dodahe goes and talks to her a little bit, opens up to her a little bit about her struggles of being bullied, and then goes back to the table, leaving Ina to like calm down a bit. And she turns to Guiju and she's like, okay, when you're going to have this alone conversation with her, all you have to do is look her in the eye and like think your most personal thoughts and it will work out fine. It will be fine. Do not talk though. Like just have her look at you in the eye and that way she'll know. And then comes the scene where he does that on the park bench. And it's such a touching scene because he realizes what his daughter can do, but then his daughter realizes what he thinks of her and maybe what he could not say out loud or didn't know how to put into words out loud. I think by that conversation, through her power, she realizes that they're not perfect. Her father's not perfect. But he's trying. Like that's the thing. She realizes he is trying. He is trying to be a better father. He realizes he had made a lot of mistakes and he's becoming more confident as a father. And that scene was just so great and just so good and how it played out, what was said, the emotions that was in that. And beyond that relationship, I think that was a major turning point in their relationship, is just they had a conversation that they needed to have and they didn't have it verbally, but they still had it. And he finally kept the promises he made. They rediscovered each other and like put in the effort into their relationship. She was able to open up more and find the support that she needed as a parental figure from him. But also Dodahi also was that somewhat parental figure from her from very early on, whether she really asked for it or not. Like she kind of sought that out, which was an amazing, I love that relationship as well. Like Ina and Dodahi's relationship, Dodahe, I keep saying Dodahe's relationship was beautiful to watch as well because she basically became a mom without trying to become a mom. And how Ina trusted her so much. And they had some really nice conversations and moments between each other too. So I love Ina in general. Like her character was just so good. The daughter was just so good. And her journey through this drama was great. And just to see her father and then Dodahe support her and become the parents that she needed in her family and in her life was just such a great part of this drama. And in my opinion, these two characters, Guiju and Ina, and then even Dodahe for that matter, they had to heal the most. In my opinion, these three characters had to heal the most and had the deeper scars that they needed to overcome. And they needed to realize what these scars and this trauma was. In the end, Ina sort of saved her father too, because the second time that he went through the car crash with Dodahe this time, he did go to a depression, but he didn't go as much as he did the first time. And I think that was because Ina was like, I believe you. Like, I believe that she's not dead. Like, I want to help you find this out. You should not be depressed anymore. And the fact that he had that in his corner and he like knew that he had to foster this relationship with Ina in a way helped him not go as depressive as he was at the beginning of the show, but also solidified their relationship more because Ina was able to pull him out of that funk the second time and was there for him that I don't think she couldn't be for the first time because she was a baby, but just that maturity of Ina to realize that she needed to be there for him in that capacity at a very young age was just to show how confident and how great she was as a character going through the story, but also was a turning point for him too, because he realized that he couldn't enter as depressive of a state as he was at the beginning of the drama. And he wouldn't allow that because his daughter was there, and he had done so much already to rectify their relationship. He didn't want to lose that again. So I think in a way, Ina saved her father by being there the second time around. And so I love their relationship. It was a great relationship, and I loved Ina in general. She was an amazing character, and I loved the actress who played her too. Another thing, speaking of relationships, that I loved about this drama was the female relationships. They were a highlight in this drama. As I said, Doda Hayes and Ina's relationship, how they grew and developed, I loved watching their relationship. Like, Doda Hay had some really, really touching and poignant conversations with Ina, especially as a girl growing up, having that motherly figure to have these discussions. Like, it was comedic, but also really touching that one of the first scenes you got as a motherly figure is when Ina got her period, and Doda Hay recognized what had happened and, like, helped her out and got stuff she needed and kind of treated her like a woman, but also coached her through it as a first-time person who got her period. And also obviously helped Guiju out, because Guiju, like, wouldn't have known what to do. It was very awkward for their relationship to do that. Like, and to have her do that without really like, she knew them at that time, but not in that capacity and not that closely, but her to recognize that and do that. And in my opinion, that wasn't deception. That wasn't a con. She really started caring for Ina and wanting her to get better and wanting her to have this female role in their relationship and in her life. And I think that scene was one of the first clues that you got that from. And that was just a very touching scene, in my opinion. But also the other female relationships in this drama were great. We got great scenes with Bok Dun-hee and Grace. Like, Grace, again, was put in there to screw up Dong-hee's relationship with her fiance, and then Grace realized her fiance was a douchebag and instead took Dong-hee's side and was like, you deserve better. You need to do better for yourself. We're going to work on you. And I loved how their relationship, Dong-hee knew almost immediately she disliked Grace. And Grace just kept sticking around and didn't leave her alone. And eventually, even though they sort of still hated each other, they developed a relationship. And then, of course, Dong-hee pulls a Superman and saves her from a falling building in the second to last episode, which Grace finally got to fly. Grace finally got to feel this freedom that she's always wanted to feel by flying. And I just love their relationship. And even like Doda Hay and Dong-hee and Grace together, like that scene where at the end of the same scene where Grace flew, Doda Hay, Dong-hee, and Grace like banding together and like kicking the fiance to the curb. That was great, like sisterhood type thing. And then we saw Khan family's mother and Guiju's mother starting to get along and getting some interaction, and then by the end they have somewhat of a friendship. Or like Ina and Hayrim, the girl who was bullying her throughout the drama. Ina being the better person and like approaching Hayrim at the end and being like, hey, this is how it is. Like, I forgive you and I understand where you're coming from, but like, I want to be friends with you and I don't want to be I want to be the bigger person. I don't want to bully you. And so I want to be friends, but we need to be real with each other. We can't lie. And then Hayrim even like opening up and saying, okay, this is why I was bothered by you. Like, even their relationship was great. And it kind of was shown that like these women supporting women type thing and being the bigger person and forgiving people when you could tell that they had bigger problems in their life. And I loved seeing these relationships form, and I loved seeing them like not take the tropey route of making these characters hate each other and be at odds and then never developing their relationships. And it was just so much fun. And and part of it was kind of joking too. Like, part of the comedy was like Grace was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm supposed to be with her fiance, but her fiance's a douchebag. I don't want him anymore. Like, I'd rather support this woman. just to see their relationships go from the beginning to the end was just a lot of fun and a lot, again, heartwarming and really touching to see. And I just love the female relationships in this drama. It was a lot of fun. Another thing I think this drama highlighted very well was trauma. As I said, like, everybody had something to deal with. Like, some had more trauma than others, some had more heart-wrenching traumas than others. But it essentially was a healing drama. Like, yeah, it was kind of marketed as a romance, and it was. It was a romance, but overall, I think it was more of a healing family drama. Like, healing the family relationships, healing the trauma within themselves, characters overcoming their trauma to come out on top. And their trauma could come from various things, or even other characters, or even societal expectations. Like, it wasn't just the Bach family having to deal with societal expectations that put a stop to their superpowers, but also the Khan family having important conversations and overcoming their own trauma. Like, all these characters fought against things in their lives to have a better life or a more positive outcome in the end. And it was just interesting to see how these characters overcame this trauma. So we had Dodahe was a major healing because she had a fire and she had a father die, and then she got taken advantage of by this Khan family. But major thing was the fire. So she had to overcome this trauma of being stuck in a fire when she was younger. And she overcame that trauma to save Ina in the end. She had poignant conversations with the Khan family and realizing that they actually did care about each other, especially the conversation she had at the end of episode 12, I want to say, or in episode 12, maybe 11, with her Khan family mother. The Khan family mother was a very interesting character because, like, I hated her for most of the drama. She was a mean character. And she was portrayed as the villain, and she was the villain for a very long time. But with some conversations at the end, you realize she was just as traumatized as some of these other characters. And she had a really, really nice conversation with Dodahe at the end of the drama that just was like, you may have entered this family as a victim, but I view you as a daughter. And I think that conversation just was really touching. And yeah, as I said before, Dodahe was a major factor in healing a lot of these characters, but also some of these characters helped each other out too. So, like, as I said, Ina helped her father. Ina also healed Dodahe a little bit. The uncle and Grace healed Donghee and Ina. Uncle following Ina around and giving her like a snack when she was hungry or something. Everyone just helped out in some way, and that's how the bond grew, because they might not have realized they were helping and healing these characters, but they were. And it was some conversations that needed to be said. And then you talk about like some of these characters that were giving us like the big one is Donghee, right? So Donghee, she had the fat suit on. Her ability was to fly, so she could fly. And all of a sudden she stopped flying. And her assumption was she had gained all this weight due to bulimia and due to the pressures of society. She couldn't fly anymore. And then you come to realize that it was her mother. Her mother was telling her stuff that, again, was kind of societal pressure, where her mom was like, stop eating, you're going to gain all this weight. Or she felt guilty for certain things that her mom dreamed about and made her do. So she actually approached her mom and had this very big conversation that healed her trauma, but also made her mother realize that she had inflicted a lot of trauma on her kids that she didn't realize. But then overall, Donghee realized that it wasn't the weight. It was never the weight. It was other stuff. And there was this scene that I loved between Guiju and her, where Guiju discovers even though she had lost all this weight by the end of the drama again, and she wasn't wearing the fat suit anymore, Guiju discovered she was still having these binges with food. He got taken back to a time when they were children, and he had gotten himself in the hospital because he kept returning to a certain time trying to save somebody, and he couldn't, so he didn't eat. And so he ended up in the hospital, and his sister brought food to him to eat. You knew she wanted to eat, but she was trying to be good and be healthy and not eat. And he also sensed that. So he was like, I don't want to eat. You eat it. Knowing that his sister really wanted to eat. So they eventually like shared the meal, but then he relayed this topic to her and this conversation after catching her binge eating as an adult, and basically told her like, you weren't skinny back then. Like, you were a normal chubby kid and you still flew. You still were fine. It had nothing to do with your weight. You still flew around like you were light as a feather. The difference is you were happy. Like, the whole problem with her not being able to fly was nothing about her weight. It was her being happy. And the fact that she had lost all this weight and still couldn't fly meant she wasn't happy. And she had to figure out why she wasn't happy. And then she pointed out that how could she not be happy? She's going to marry this person that she loved. And he's like, yeah, you just said it. You're marrying a guy you used to love. You loved, as in past tense. That's not being you happy. That's you settling. And it took that conversation with Guiju, her brother, to realize that, and to realize that even though she's her ideal weight and she looks fantastic and back to like the weight that she was when she deemed herself to be happy, she still wasn't happy. And I think I knew that was always going to be the case when they used the fat suit, is like, it had nothing to do with weight. But the fact that Guiju had that conversation with how we view weight, especially within Korea beauty standards, US beauty standards too, but like, to have a main character in a drama say, be happy, do what you want to be happy, you do not have to be skinny to be happy. I think for me, it was like a major thing that needed to be said in this day and age. That you don't see that a lot in Korean dramas, like, especially if a fat suit's involved in these old dramas. But like, that's a conversation you don't normally see. You don't normally see culturally. Korea's very much of like, has a high beauty standard. And so people deem skinny as fit, as pretty. America does too, where we are not special and we also have problems. But just to have that conversation and that being said openly in a Korean drama was just really nice to hear and really nice to see. And it was just a touching brother sister moment. And like, there was other moments where like Dong-hee, because they did not have a good relationship at the beginning of this drama, they kind of like resented each other in a way, especially Dong-hee, because they were competing, quote unquote, competing over this building. But even Dong-hee would be like, I hate him, but he's my brother, so don't you dare talk about him that way. Or like, they're still family, they're my family, like a dysfunctional family, but they're my family. So I loved that scene where he just said, hey, you were happy and you weighed more than you did now, and you could fly. So it has nothing to do with weight. I loved that scene. Loved it. I also loved, as I said, Do-da-hee running through the fire to save Ina despite her trauma. She overcame that to save somebody. It's just, I love the conversations this drama had about trauma, and I love the conversations that this drama showed to overcome trauma or attempt to start to overcome it. Because I don't think what this drama also did well is you can't recover from trauma overnight. So there was this scene throughout where Do-da-hee couldn't look at fire and couldn't really cook, and she would have this arm, this like extendable arm to like turn on the stove or turn on whatever, because she wanted to get as far away from the fire. And throughout the drama, you saw her start to cook more and start to get over the cooking aspect of the fear of this drama. And you thought like, okay, she can handle it now. But then in the last scene, when they're dealing with a fire at Ina's school and she's running through it to get Ina, you could still tell she was not okay. She was still fighting her demons and fighting past the trauma to save Ina. And I think that was a beautiful scene too, because it just shows that like, you have trauma, but you're always going to have something with that trauma. It's just how you deal with it. And I just thought this drama discussed trauma really well, no matter the character. and just showed strides that these characters took to try and overcome it, or at least try to live past it as best as possible. And I think it was done really well in this drama. Okay, so the next one is the powers. I found it really funny that it was a lot of the powers with the Bach family had to do with past and future. Like, we had 3 characters that had something to do with these powers. Yeah, a major plot point of the story we had to do with time travel, so it made sense, but I just found it really interesting that a bunch of them had to do with time. Because we had Guiju, who could go back to the past, but only to his happy moments. We had his mother, who could see the future in the dreams, and then eventually, spoiler, Guiju's son and Dodahe's son also had to do with time. And so I found that really interesting that so much of it was time, really. I liked the idea of a family with superpowers dealing with modern day issues, which broke their powers. I liked that in synopsis, and they had lived off these powers for so long that they didn't know how to do things without them. So it was interesting to have them discover new things about themselves without the powers, but also discover new things about their powers as the drama went on. And I think that was part of the healing process. Like, one of the things that the matriarch, the grandmother, Ina's grandmother, Guiju's mother of the Bach family, learned was she had these dreams, and in the past she would like stop somebody from going somewhere if she saw an accident happen, but she might not have seen her daughter go through the accident. She just was like, okay, you're supposed to be this role in this fashion show. I saw that person get hurt, so you're not going. But then she learned as time went through the story that it was up to how she interpreted them. And she was wrong sometimes, or hadn't interpreted them as much as possible. So that was what she learned a lot. And then Guiju and Ina's powers changed and mutated throughout the drama, which the story did tell us that it could happen, that could happen. So they had to relearn and use how to use them, and also how to use these new abilities as they changed and mutated through time. And then the other thing that was really interesting and really cool to see is like some of the societal issues, quote unquote societal issues, was not the actual problem that the character was facing to fix their problem. They just assumed it was. I mean, case in point was Dong-hee thought she was too fat so she couldn't fly. Well, her real problem is she wasn't happy. It had nothing to do with her weight. It had nothing to do with the societal issue of people need to be skinny to be happy or to be beautiful or whatever. That might have added it, like her mother saying, like, we got flashbacks of her mother saying, you're gaining weight, you're not gonna fly, you can't fly with this much weight. But that wasn't the real issue on why she couldn't fly. So that was really interesting to discover, like, what were the actual real problems that they were facing on why they couldn't use their powers. And it just was an interesting concept and unique to this story that I loved exploring from beginning to end. And then I also loved seeing how the powers were displayed on screen and how they were interpreted by director, cinematographer, the actors themselves. It was really nice and really unique on how these powers were played out in the drama itself. Speaking of that, I loved the cinematography of this drama. The interpretation of like when Guiju time traveled and we had like color changes, and that's when the audience knew we were time traveling. I thought that was just such an interesting concept that you just change the color grading, and that's when you knew it was a time travel thing. It made it easier for the audience to understand because anything in color he could actually touch or was like quote unquote real. So like that's why Dodahe was pretty much always in color in when he time traveled, or when, because like she could interact with him, she could see him, he could talk to her, that type of thing. And that use of cinematography and color grading was just a brilliant way to show this. And it also helped the audience understand the story and how the time travel worked, and even like gave clues of foreshadowing of what was going to happen later on in the story if you paid close enough attention. The explosion when he went back in time eventually became color, which I don't know if you noticed that, but like that told us like, oh, he could get injured by it, or he could maybe stop it, he could interact with it, like that type of thing. So like the realization of what color meant in that scene and then those scenes was great because it helped us understand the time travel and where the story was going and what could be done to move the story along. Also, I loved was the fact that like the story of Gwiju visiting Dodahe in different times of her life and helping her out with certain things, and then us seeing that while it was happening. So a lot of times we were saying like she would have this scene with Gwiju in like quote unquote present day, and she would see a second Gwiju, and we knew in the drama that Gwiju couldn't see himself, so she was the only one, and he would help her. So like one of the more hilarious scenes that I absolutely loved was when they discovered that she had conned everybody into a wedding, and Gwiju was like shutting her out and being really mad and not letting her have any interaction with him. So they had this huge argument in a parking lot, and she's having a conversation with Gwiju in front of her and turns around, and Gwiju's right there. And he basically pushes her in front of his own car to get her to have a conversation with present day Gwiju to tell her that he needs to go save his sister because his sister's in danger. And then we watch the rest of the episode and we see how that whole scene came about. And then we watch the Gwiju who comes back in time to save his sister and what he is learning from that journey and from the rest of that episode about Dodahe to have these expressions on his faces where he understands her better, knows things about her that him 45 minutes ago in the same episode didn't know. Like, I loved watching that play out because one, Jung Ki-young, his facial expressions and his acting was brilliant because the way he looked at Dodahe was just like, I died every time. Like he's just so expressive in his eyes and so good, and like he just looked at her lovingly or super angry depending on the emotion, and just like her turning around from really angry all Griju making her cry to turning around and him walking up and just looking at her in this like loving way and wiping tears off her face, and then just like not letting her leave the scene until she has this conversation or relays the information to himself, and himself being like, why the heck would I come and visit you again? I'm mad at you right now. Like, I never want to see your face again. I just told you this. The way those scenes played out was just so good. And then you like try and think to yourself like, okay, what do these expressions mean? Because sometimes you'd have him just show up in a jackets with like, she made a reference, she saw one where they had to run and get Ina in from being locked in the gym, and she looked at him and she's like, I saw you told me they were in the gym, but you looked really sad. And like then the audience is like, okay, why does he look sad? What happened in the next 3 episodes that he looks sad? So like to have me have those conversations in my head shows I was very invested in this story and wanted everybody to be okay by the ending. And I just loved how the drama played this out and how the cinematography helped with that, because you got different camera angles and you got different camera work to pull this off, to have two Guijus in the same scene together, or like you used the color grading to show that this was a past Gwiju or future Gwiju visiting Dodahe. Like it was just a brilliant way to do it and very understandable to the audience, in my opinion. Okay, I got a couple more, and then I'll talk about some things that I disliked a little bit. As I said multiple times already, like there's a lot of great messages and a lot of things people can pull from this drama, which is why I think a lot of people are missing out on it, because there's just some great conversations that were had in this drama and great points that were made and great issues brought up and discussed that need to be said. And one of the major viewpoints I found, and I think was like a major theme across the entire story, was the idea that different perspectives lead to different results. So the Bach family, due to them being blocked to use their power, but also just their powers in general as time went on, they viewed their powers as curses. So Guiju hated the fact that he could go back and see his dead wife because he didn't want to see her. He didn't want to relive that. He didn't want to see his daughter. Or the grandmother, the mother of the Bach family, like hated dreaming and hated seeing people's, and not everything she dreamed was horrible. She saw other things, like a wedding, for example, but she hated that she interpreted wrong. She hated seeing those horrible scenes in general. She saw her curse. She actually said it. She saw her power as a curse. But then you look at the Khan family, or Dodahe, and they, who had never even thought about a negative point of this power or never had to deal with the negative part of their power, immediately thought these superpowers were a blessing. I think that just showed that they're like, it depended on people's viewpoints, and these people also influenced the perspective that the Bach family had on their powers too. Like Dodahe kind of just was like, okay, I understand it's a curse, I do, but if you look at it this way, it could be a blessing. Or if you look at it this way, you might have never saved me or Ina or something like that. So I love those conversations where people were like, oh my God, I hate my power, or oh my God, I hate this. But then somebody else would chime in and bring their own perspective and change their minds, or bring a new perspective that they hadn't considered. And I loved that message throughout. And it wasn't just like talking about the powers, it was talking about other things as well. But a lot of this conversation did happen around the powers. I just like that they changed the Bach family's viewpoint of their powers. And then also the Bach family changed the viewpoint of the Khan family and some of the issues they were having, or some of the thoughts that they had as well. But also the family members too, the Bach family, kind of had a different perspective too. So like one of the major things, as I said, the grandmother of the Bach family, the matriarch of the Bach family, dreamed, saw the future, would tell her family members to like not do something, or not go, or not say something, or whatever. And multiple times we saw them do the thing that their mother did not want them to do. And that was them choosing to do it, to change the result or change the perspective. So like in a prime example, Dong-hee, the mother told her not to go to Ina's dance competition, because she's like, you're gonna expose yourself, you're gonna fly in front of everybody. And Dong-hee's like, okay, I'm still gonna go. I don't care, like I'm going to go. If I fly in front of everybody, I'm not, because I'm gonna be there for Ina. I want to see my niece dance. I want to support her. And then when they're actually there and the fire breaks out, Dong-hee did fly in front of everybody, but she saved a lot of people because she was able to get up to the fire curtain and get it down so the fire wouldn't spread to the auditorium. And so if she hadn't been there, like people potentially could have died. And like if she had listened to her mother's influence, that would have happened. And I'm sure the mother would have been felt guilty about it. Like that was the problem with like the mother interpreting it one way and not seeing it better, is like if she had taken it how her mother interpreted it, bad things would have happened, including her mother might have died. Like she was in the auditorium as well. So I loved that the family even defied her mother's dreams and made their own choices. And like Guiju said this thing where in the same episode, in episode 12, Doda is like, I thought we had more time. I don't want you to go back in time. I thought, like, don't save me. Don't go back. And don't do it because your mother dreamed you were going to die. And Guiju was like, I'm going back because I choose to go back. Like, it is my choice to go back. I'm not doing it because you want me to or don't want me to, or my mother doesn't want me to, or my mother had a dream. I'm not being influenced by something. I am going back because I choose to go back. And I think that was a major thing that was needed to be learned in the drama, and just added to the different perspective led to different results thing, is Yeah, they made this choice, but it it was it ended up okay. It ended up great. It was not like there was more than just the vision that her mother had, and they needed to be there to prove that it was more than just her dream, and that was it. So I love that message throughout this as well. Another message that we got was you may have like a dysfunctional family who dislike each other or are absorbed in their own problems or absorbed in like their own motivations. But at the end of the day, you are still family and you support each other either like all the time. As I said before, Dong-hee had these conversations where she absolutely hated her brother or was resentful for her brother or was in competition with Gwiju for the building. But the minute somebody talked, there was a scene. So the Gwiju's family, the Bok family own this gym in this building. And the entire drama, Dong-hee and specifically Dong-hee was competing to own this building because their mother was like the first one to get married is going to inherit this building. So it was Gwiju and Dong-hee. And they were constantly bickering about this building. And there was this one scene where Gwiju was actually like working out, and Dong-hee's like, "My God, you're working out. Well, I'm gonna start having conversations with you in a room full of other people." And then all of a sudden, Gwiju disappears because he time traveled back and drops the weight that he was lifting. And Dong-hee like dives onto the bench and pretends that she dropped the weight. So that tells like they were in full argument mode, and she still dove to cover her brother who like randomly disappeared, because at that point in the story he was just popping in and out all the time and sort of not controlling it. He would like think of Dodahe and just disappear, and he didn't want to do it, but he was just automatically doing it. So they were in mid argument and she still dove over the bench and covered for him. Like that was key. They're always my family, I will always support him type thing. And I love those type of scenes all the time. And that happened all the time, specifically with Dong-hee and her brother. But a lot of the other things, like Dong-hee would hear a comment about her brother at the gym and she'd like, don't talk about him like that. I'm his sister. He's still family. Or Ina would hear something about her father and she would automatically back him up, even though they didn't have the best relationship at the beginning of the drama. I love that message, and I think it was done very well here. The other thing that I thought was a good thing, and this is actually was quoted in the drama too, and I think was a major theme throughout the drama, was, quote, "It's not a crime to survive." And this quote stuck with me. It was said very early on, like episode 1, 2, maybe 3. So many of these characters in this drama were dealing with survival's guilt in some capacity. Just seeing how these characters dealt with that and living with people who were or the people living in the family dealing, and then like having their family members deal with the survivor's guilt was just so well done and so well described. And a lot of these characters, such as Gwiju and Ina specifically, like had to come to terms with that fact that they did survive and they need to continue to survive and they can't just wallow in this survivor's guilt. It was just a major theme and it was done so well, and the quote stuck with me a lot throughout the drama because it was a major theme going throughout, and I loved that message as well. All right, 2 more. Quick shout out are the OSTs. I wanted to give a shout out to them as well as the instrumentals. I think it just added to the uniqueness of this drama because a lot of the OSTs and instrumentals had like a more whimsical sound, but the topic and scenes on screen that you're seeing might not necessarily would meet the theme of the music. So I found that to be a really nice change up and was really refreshing, and also the OSTs were just so well done, and I will forever love the OST that plays whenever Gwiju time travels to see Dodahe. It will be stuck in my head forever. But I really like the music with this. I really like this a lot. Okay, so the last one that I'm going to talk about, and this is going to be major spoilers, But I love the ending so much. And I know online there was a ton of discussion about the ending and people either being confused by it or not understanding it or having a little things they had issues with. So I want to tell my interpretation of the ending and what I thought happened. And see if that helps you guys out if you did watch this and you're confused, or if you agree with my interpretation of the ending. Okay. So for me, even though, as I said, a lot of people were confused or unhappy with the ending, I thought the writers pulled it off really well. And for me, it made total sense. And I know some people online were interpreting it as an open ending. I did not see it that way. I think it had a very clear ending. It had a very clear direction on if we were to continue beyond the ending scene, where that would be. It wasn't like will they, won't they ending. That's just what I would interpret as an open ending. Like, would he get back to the main time? Would she ever see her again? Like, we got a scene that said they would. And so I did not think of it as an open ending at all, but other people did. And maybe that's because we didn't go beyond the son's bedroom and we wanted to see more of that, which I will say it would have been nice for him to be reunited with his entire family and not just Dodahe, but I don't think it was an open ending in my opinion. So here's my interpretation of what happened. So this was all happened in the last episodes. If you have not watched Atypical Family, I mean, I've talked about a bunch of spoilers already, but this is going to be spoiler alert for the entire ending of this drama. Step-by-step ending. So if you do not want to hear the complete ending of the Atypical Family, don't continue, please. This is your spoiler warning. I'm warning you now. This is step-by-step, every detail of the ending. So, just saying. Okay, so in the present day, we have Gwiju, who saved Ina and Dodahe from the fire at her dance competition, right? He escaped death from the wall collapse that he kept up until Dodahe and Ina could escape. He escaped death from that collapsing by going back in time and time traveling to Dodahe's school fire and then saves her. So he went from Ina's school fire to Dodahe's high school fire. He saves Dodahe. And because he traveled back in time to Dodahe's fire, there's no body to recover in Ina's dance competition fire. So in present day, there's no body because he's back in Dodahe's time. So he's presumed dead and is given a funeral without a body in present day Ina's dance competition fire. Then we jump 5 years ahead of Ina's dance competition fire, so present day, 5 years into the future, we find out that Dodahe has given birth to her and Gwiju's son, and 5 years has passed for everybody except for Gwiju, who is now in Dodahe's time in the past, in her fire. So we have, if you draw a line, you have Dodahe's fire on the left, the present day Ina's fire, then Gwiju and Dodahe's son in the future, 5 years ahead, right? So the son is born and she's given birth to him, and it's 5 years in the future, and she discovers that their son can summon things from the past that were lost. For example, they have this whole conversation in that scene where she's like, oh, you found a ball that you lost. And he's like, yeah, I found it. I pulled it from the past. I went and was like, I want to find my ball, and the ball reappeared here. So he has a power to pull things from the past to the future. He doesn't time travel to the past. He is in his present day and pulls things from the past to where he is in present day, to his present day. So, since he can do that, Dodahe decides to see if he can try and pull his father from her high school fire. So she says, hey, can you pull him 18 years ago? Not 5 years ago, 18 from her fire. Can you find him again and recover him? And that's where he ends up. He ends up in the future / their son's present day. 5 years has not passed for him, though. It's a matter of minutes. So he travels from Ina's fire automatically to Dodahe and saves her, and then very quickly goes to the future in their son's present day. So that's how he survived Dodahe's. When the explosion of the lab happened, we all thought he died there. He actually was pulled into the future in their son's present day. So, since his son yanked him from Dodahe's fire 15 years ago and was put 5 years ahead of Ina's fire, he never went back to Ina's fire. He never went back to 2024. He never went back to the dance competition. He was already returned to the family 5 years ahead. So basically, Dodahe and Ina had to catch up to him. So, for example, as I said, their son pulled a ball from yesterday. His son said he lost the ball yesterday. Yes, I lost this ball yesterday. I found it today because I was able to bring it back to from yesterday. I found my ball because I thought about it and brought it from yesterday. The reason why he lost it yesterday was because he pulled it into the future a day after. That's pretty much what they did with his father. So his father was deemed lost because he had pulled him into the future. So technically, Dodahe caused him to miss 5 years of his son's life and Ina's life by having her son, quote unquote, find him. But he was lost to begin with because his son pulled him into the future and making him lost because they did not find a body in Ina's dance competition because he was already in the future. His body was already put in the future. So if you guys are confused about this, that is my interpretation of it. I know that was really confusing, but if you draw the line and then go back and put past, present, if you go put Dodahe's fire on the left, present day Ina's fire in the middle, and Dodahe and Guiju's son on the right, and then kind of write out what I just said, you'll pretty much understand what I said. The other thing that I'd like to point out is in that same episode, in episode 12, Guiju also knew he was going to survive this entire thing because he talked to his firefighter friend and heard that about this fund that was set up for his dead firefighter's son. And he knew he hadn't set that fund up yet. And then entered Ina's dance competition. So he knew already that he was going to survive this somehow and set up that fund at some point. So he accepted this fate of going back in time and traveling to these 3 places. But that's how he survived all the fires. That's how he ended up, quote unquote, lost and buried with no body because his body did not return to Ina's fire. It was pushed into the future 5 years. And thus they had a happy ending. And that was even more added was they had the quote that was ran in the last couple episodes, but also reiterated at the end. Quote, "This isn't the end, it's the beginning." And that was said right when he appeared next to his son, which I thought rounded that ending so much more. He is now, he didn't know his son for the first 5 years of his life, but now he can restart his life and be married to Dodahe and have a son and be in Ina's life after 5 years again. And they can live out as a married couple and as a family. So that was my whole interpretation of this ending. And happy ending, I thought it was a good, well-written ending. I thought it made perfect sense once you thought out all of the time things. I love this ending. I thought it was a positive thing. It was a great way for them to connect everything, and it made sense. It wasn't okay, but how did he do this? How did he do that? I will agree with people. Some people were saying, I wish we had seen him reunite with Ina, or wish we had seen him reunite with the family when they went out to dinner, because his grandmother or his mother was like, we need to put another set on the table because we're going to have a special guest, but she didn't know who. That was going to be Guiju when he reappeared next to his son. It would have been nice to see that, but was it needed? No, not really. We kind of knew that was going to happen, and we knew they would have been happy. I don't really think that was needed. It would have been nice, but it wasn't really needed. And I think it was a very nice ending, and I'm really glad how they wrapped it up. That was a really big highlight because I was racking my brain trying to figure out how he was going to survive this or if he was actually going to die. And I thought that was a really nice way. And then, yeah, of course, they didn't like explicitly say like she's pregnant and like they kind of revealed the baby and the boy matter of factly, but that solved the problem and it made perfect sense and it was a cool power. So I'm okay with the ending. Okay, so those are all the things that I loved and pointed out some things that I loved with the plot. So now I'm going to talk about a couple things that I think the drama could have done better. One was the pacing. I like that it was 12 episodes. I do not think it needed to be longer at all. Maybe one episode if we really wanted to see him reunite with his family or Ina or anything. But like, I don't really think it was needed beyond that. So 12 episodes was fine. But I did think the middle episodes were a little paced a little differently. Like they concentrated too much on Gwiju and Dodahe's romance and not enough on some of the family members and their issues. Sometimes it felt a little rushed in the last couple episodes because they all of a sudden shifted to the family members and didn't even deal with Gwiju and Dodahe and what he had to do at the end. So episode 12 had a lot of things happening in it at the end. I felt they could have spread some things out and also condensed some things a little bit. But it wasn't horrible. I think like what I didn't like about the pacing is I would have liked to know more details or seen some things done off camera on camera. But it wasn't I wasn't bored at all. It didn't lag the plot or anything like that. It had some good unpredictability still, but I think I would have placed some things differently. I would have spread out some things more. I would have condensed some things a little bit. But overall, it wasn't a huge bad pacing. It wasn't like, oh my god, this doesn't make sense whatsoever. Right? Why is this happening? Along with the pacing, I think some of the endings I thought could have been better. Like Grandma Bach, or the matriarch of the Bach family, she started to mend her relationships with her family, but I felt like that was either rushed or we just didn't see some of those conversations. I would have loved to see more of that. Because all of a sudden you got like her family somewhat forgiving her. Same with the Khan family mother. We had some great, beautiful scenes with Dodahe with both of these women and conversations they had. And then all of a sudden they were kind of like forgiven at the same time. So I would have liked to see more of that on screen versus like just one and done. And then also due to the pacing, I thought Donghee and her father either had no storyline like in the middle where like we really concentrated on the Bach family mother or Gwiju or Ina and like was really not talking about Donghee or her father at all, which I thought was kind of unfair. I felt her father didn't really have a big storyline. Like he still had trauma to go through and they did say that, but he was really a supporting character in this. And I think they could have done more with Donghee as well. But I think also this was partly due to the fact there was just so much trauma and so much healing that needed to be done with Dodahe, Gwiju, and Ina that like somebody was bound to be put on the back burner at some point, and I think these two characters just got really put on the back burner. Somewhat Guiju's mom too. As I said, I would have liked to see more of her a little bit and her healing process a little bit more. But I think with the amount of healing and the amount of trauma that Dodahe and Gwiju and Ina had to do, it was inevitable for somebody to be put on the back burner, but I would have liked to see more of that. And lastly, and certainly not least, of course, I'm going to talk about the fat suit. So, according to my research, as I said, this drama is an original story. It's not based off anything. And as I said, I know a lot of people did not watch this drama due to the promo pictures and seeing the fat suit. And as I said, I was upset with it too. I was really upset with it. But I still gave this drama a shot. I was, one, really curious what they were going to do if they could do anything with that fat suit and see how that played out. And also, of course, we have Jang Ki-young. Like, I was going to watch him in this drama anyway. If I dropped it, I dropped it, you know? But I'm really glad I did check this out. I knew, because this has just always been a trope when you're dealing with being overweight as a plot point, it was never about her weight. It was never going to be about her weight. There was going to be something else that was going to be the reason she had lost her powers. Of course, we learned, as I said before, that it was her loss of happiness. She was not happy, no matter if she was heavy or if she was thin. And overall, I think the drama used the fat suit trope well. Like, in the beginning, it was very like, is this going to be okay? There's a couple things that I was like, they could have done that better. But as time went on, they did better. Like, it was better. And I think the initial scenes in the beginning had to happen to have the story move the way it did by the end. Also, though, at the beginning of the drama, it could have been worse, in my opinion. They did it. Yes, there were some scenes where like, I'm uncomfortable watching this scene, but at the same time, it could have been way worse, in my opinion. It made it to be the fat suit trope, like wonderful and touching story with a complex character. In my opinion, I feel like they could have figured out a way to have that same thing without the fat suit. I don't know what that would be. Like, maybe change her power or like give her self-esteem issues or something like that, and not have to, and still have the same message and same complex character but without the fat suit. I think they could have still done that without the fat suit, but I just can't think of like a scenario that would do that justice. But did the drama use the fat suit in a good way and made the best of it? Yeah, I think so. I think they did. But again, as I said, was it needed? I think they could have rewritten it differently, and they could have not used the fat suit in some way and still had the same background, the same issues she was dealing with, the same problems come up. I think it would have been different. Now, would it still have been appearance-wise? Maybe. But they probably could have gotten rid of this fat suit and done something else. I don't know what that would be. But I think it's one of those things where like it made sense why they used it and how they used it, and they did it well, but they could have done something different and it still would have, the message and the complex character still would have come across well as too. So it was kind of choices, but I would say if you watch this just to boycott the fat suit, understandably so, yes, I agree. I still think you missed out on a really special drama and a message, or some really important messages behind that drama, that I would still recommend this, even knowing there's a fat suit involved in all of this. So that is my review of The Atypical Family. That is what I loved about the drama. That is what I disliked about the drama. I gave it a 9 out of 10 because I did have some issues. It's not a perfect drama, as I said, but it's still a fantastic drama. I think I love this drama more than I thought I would. I really hope more people watch this drama now that it's over. I think a lot of people, as I said, missed out on an amazing drama just because of a poor decision the production made. And also just due to the fact that, like, since a lot of people weren't watching this drama, it wasn't being talked about a lot. Now it might be more talked about, but before not so much. So if you want a unique, somewhat dark, different drama to check out, highly recommend this one. So quick rundown of some of my favorite scenes, okay? And I might have named them in the drama already, but I'm just going to reiterate some of them. One of my favorite scenes was the whole, like, Guiju stopping Dodahe in the parking lot to go talk to himself on saving his sister. It was a very touching but also comedic scene. I loved that scene. Pretty much any conversation Ina had with her father, especially towards the end when she and him really opened up more, they made me cry all the time. It was a heartbreaking scene, but it was also a very important scene of like seeing Ina and realizing what she actually heard in her mother's mind when the car crash happened. I think that was a huge turning point for a lot of characters in the drama. And so it wasn't like my favorite scene to watch, but I thought that was a really important scene in the drama itself. The scene where Guiju was trying not to return to the kiss that he did, the first kiss they did with Dodahe, and he just kept going back without even thinking about it. It was hilarious to watch. And yeah, I mean, those were some of my favorite ones. I know I mentioned some other ones. As I said, the Dong-hee and her brother having the conversation about the hospital scene, the eating hospital scene. The whole episode, honestly, where the Khan family mom was trying to get them to create happy scenes for Guiju to return back to. So the uncle basically had them go on a really, really, really long, like day-long date and had like these bubble gums and everything. It was hilarious to watch, but also really heartwarming. It's just, there's a lot of heartwarming and touching scenes in this and a lot of great conversations. And I can't recommend this enough. It was so good. Will say though, there are some really, really hard scenes to watch too. Like you have people with depression, you have bulimia, you have death, of course, you have people dealing with grief and trauma and things like that. So there are some really important and some to what really hard topics to watch in this drama as well. So trigger warning on that. But I can't recommend this one enough. It's just so good and so unique and so unexpected. I really want to hear other people's thoughts on this and like what you thought of my review and what you thought of the drama as a whole. I would love people to DM me to talk about this drama because I could talk about it for days. As you can see, I have an almost 2-hour review on it right now. So yeah, that is my review of The Atypical Family. It's a 9 out of 10. Absolutely loved it. We'll totally be watching scenes from this. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know if you liked anything that I didn't name. But yeah, 9 out of 10 review of The Atypical Family. Thank you for listening. This is another Korean drama review on the NoSleep4Dramas podcast. If you want to continue the conversations about dramas that were started in this episode, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter under the username NoSleep4Dramas. That is no sleep, the number 4 dramas, just like in the title of the podcast. This podcast is also an expansion of my blog, so you can visit my blog at www.NoSleep4Dramas.com, the number 4 dramas.com, and find multiple years of blog posts already available at your fingertips. All links are in the description of this episode. This has been an episode of the NoSleep4Dramas podcast, and I am your host, Caitlin. I will see you here next time, and I hope you get no sleep chasing the next episode just like me. Good night.